I don't want to pay employee wages is what I'm saying, okay?
This is why he's an employee.
I want my workers in board games to be non-unionized.
He wants slaves.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Mike.
And I'm Kim.
And you're watching Tabletop
Turtle.
Mayan edition. What did I say?
Topia.
So today we're reviewing Tzolk'in The Mayan Calendar, a game that came out in 2012, which is about the time that the world was supposed to end, according to the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were wrong. Take that, Mayans. We're here.
Or are we?
Oh, we're living in the Mayan Matrix. So in Tzolk'in The Mayan Calendar, players take on the role of Mayan tribes, competing for various resources in the favor of the gods to see which Mayan tribe comes out on top at the end. On their turn, players will either put the workers on one of the gears or take the workers off a gear. After everyone has had their turn, the Tzolk'in gear advances one day, which causes all workers on all gears to move one position ahead, which changes the actions they can perform. Players will compete for various action spots, gathering resources, building buildings, trying to gain favor with the gods, all in their quest to become the ultimate Mayan tribe, which means whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. Don't forget to feed your workers. You always gotta feed your workers. If you're a new player, you see these older games, sometimes you're not quite sure, so we're gonna answer that question whether or not you should bother buying this. To all the diehard fans, I mean, you're never getting rid of it, you're gonna keep it.
Yeah, it's a very, very unique game. And I think
still
part of the question of what we're trying to answer today is if it's still worth it today, if it still stands up to the competition today, if it still has a unique perspective.
Yeah, this game has to have something to offer that other new games aren't offering.
Or don't do it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Components, this game is winning. Your game won't be as winning as mine. I have a painted gear and it's freaking breathtaking.
It truly is. It elevates the whole game.
Yeah.
Truly it does.
Deserves to be in a museum.
I don't know if I'll go that far.
Smithsonian.
But I think it definitely...
The Louvre.
I really like when some board games incorporate things like this that not allow you, but almost like encourages you to paint it, to make it a lot more interactive.
Because they're all gray, all the original copies.
Which is sad.
Which is gray.
It's a sad.
Boring.
Why would
the
you do
Mayans
that?
would not be pleased with that.
The gods would not be pleased.
You would be
with
sacrificed for your grayness, your gray plasticness. Yeah, so visually, it's a treat. It's a treat. It's really cool to look at. I would say if you were playing this at a convention today, I think if people weren't aware of the game, they'd stop. They would stop to look because it's just a cool little mechanism. And I don't think it's one that's been replicated. Certainly some of the actions have, but not the gears themselves. And I know when this game first came out, a lot of people were very worried. They were like, well, this looks like a pretty basic worker placement game. Is all that there is to the game is the gears? I don't think so.
I fully understand why people would think, oh, is this gears? Like, seems kind of gimmicky. But it adds a whole new level of complexity that you don't get the immediate gratification because you put worker down, and like over time, as you longer you wait, the better your action can get.
I think that's a good way to differentiate it between contemporary worker placement games. A lot of worker placement games are about immediate gratification.
Exactly.
Which is fun.
Like social media, like people today.
Exactly. This game is more like, it's very long-term planning.
Back in my day, you had to wait for the good stuff.
That's right. Yes, this is an old-timer game. No, it's very much about like putting your worker out with the expectation that he might sit there for maybe 4, 5, 6 turns. And that creates a lot of interesting decisions.
This game just makes you want to sit and wait. Put it down and wait.
Mechanically, there's not a lot of games where your worker getting a resource is based upon the time period in which you take him back, not necessarily the time in which you place him. And I think that's unique. And what's really interesting, what other decisions it can create is you can place multiple workers at the same time. You can take off multiple workers at the same time. So if I really want to, I can double down on a specific gear and place a bunch. It'll be costly, but it'll create a nice little block against other players and ensure that I can do multiple things on that wheel and get those actions.
And that other people can't.
For a worker placement game, due to the way in which the gears function, it does fabricate a certain interesting level of player interaction.
Yes.
Right? Because yes, it is just placing something down and then a person saying, oh, shucks, I can't go there now. But in a sense, they can because they can just skip ahead. They just have to be willing to pay. Yeah.
See, more time travel. And see, this is why this game does time traveling better.
Well, there's no time traveling. The time traveling is just moving along. It's time traveling in the way like tomorrow is time traveling.
It's time traveling in the way that you can go, it's one direction. You can't go back.
Yeah, there's no going
You
back.
can push. You can.
Oh, you
jump
can't
into
skip
the
ahead
future.
twice.
See,
That's
time
true. You can't.
travel.
Everybody has one action that they can perform, and it's a one-time, once per game effect.
What?
And you rotate it twice.
What? I didn't know this.
Yeah, I never tell anybody that rule. I don't like it. I don't like the rule, so I don't tell people.
This is not how games work. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you guys understand my
Mike's
frustration.
house rules.
It's also my house.
You've been Tzolk'in.
You've been mic'd, really. This is how play.
Leave a like and a comment if you
him.
sometimes leave rules out that you don't want people to know, so because you don't want them to be done in your games. It's better. I don't like it. I don't like it.
He only likes things that helps him win.
We can play with it
Leave
next
a comment
time.
below if you think Mike shouldn't avoid any of the rules. No, actually, leave a comment below if you think Kim should read the rule book and
No.
teach him how to play the game.
No. Tzolk'in. So despite being a pretty fun game, I no longer am interested in some aspects of the game.
Oh, like what?
The crystal skull mechanic. You know, you go and you collect the crystal skulls from one wheel, and then on another wheel, you just put them down on it and you get victory points. It's the least interesting portion, and yet it's a big chunk of how you get victory points.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just boring.
Because it's so critical in getting all these additional bonus points for the blue track or the blue wheel, I wish it was more of you get it based on maybe completing a building or a monument. So more of an award system versus being from just one position, one spot.
Other things, I've never been a big fan of the feed your worker mechanic. I don't know where this, I'm guessing it came from Agricola, but this idea of like, I put my workers out and then because they did some stuff, now I have to pay for them. I don't want to pay employee wages is what I'm saying. Okay?
This is why he's an employee.
I want my
and
workers
employer.
in board games to be non-unionized. I want
He wants
slaves. Apparently I want slave workers.
He wants to not feed them and for them to work for free.
Tabletop Turtle does not endorse slavery. I want to put that out there. It's a hot take. Slavery bad.
Except when it comes to board games.
Then when it comes to board games, I want you workers working for free. From a design aspect, I understand why. Because you have to encourage people to get corn otherwise.
Yeah, and like a lot of these things, needing the blue skull, needing corn, wanting to go up the tech tree, tile.
It's just never fun. It's never fun. Feeding workers nobody ever looks
punishing.
No one ever looks forward to the round in which they feed workers.
It's just punishing, right? Like it's a bare requirements kind of thing. Like if you don't make the very bare minimum of feeding all your workers, you get punished for it.
I do think that design mechanism is kind of going out of fashion. Not entirely, but a little bit. I think there's ways in which you can encourage an individual to obtain specific resources based upon how many workers they have, right? Because it's a give and take that can still make for some fun decision making. I will say too that this is actually kind of a joy to teach. Despite the sort of like depth of iconography that exists in this game, which can be very struggling, the simple actions are really easy and fun to teach.
And they're very straightforward.
Yeah, because I can actually just kind of start this game. If people really want to, if you're teaching this game to the type of people who just glaze over when you're teaching rules, you can just say like, hey, let's just start. I'll just show you. And they'll get it. They'll get it pretty quickly once they understand the iconography.
Well,
and there are ways in which it's not even punishing.
Even if they don't understand the iconography, it's a majority of the tracks is just gaining resources, right? So like you have all these little resources and it's just like, oh, corn, you gain corn. Wood, you gain wood. Like not that complicated. Yeah.
At its heart, it's a rudimentary worker placement game. Like it is kind of the gears that make it. And it is nice that the game is not particularly punishing because if you wait too long on the gears.
Oh, if you wait too long on the gears, it depends how long you wait. If you wait right till the very end, when you take it off, it's not that you're stuck with only these specific resources. You can pick any of the different resource sections.
Yeah, all the gears have 2 spots at the very end, which allow you to pick all the locations which precede it. So it actually could be advantageous, not just because it's something that you just didn't notice and your guy just advanced without you knowing it and you weren't paying attention. But it could be that you want to get something else on that gear that you just don't need just yet.
Or if you want it on the first few spots, but because every turn of yours, you can either put down workers or take back workers. So let's say you once it's in the first spot, but you didn't want to waste your turn taking off workers. You wanted to put down a worker somewhere else, you could still keep doing that, right? And then wait till the very end before taking off all your workers in one turn. So it definitely allows for a lot more strategy than you would otherwise think, putting down and taking off. Lets you think a little more.
Yep.
The only real variability component is since there's no character abilities or any unique player powers, it's just going to be the monuments and buildings that are there.
Yeah, pretty much. The variability of this game in terms of how this game feels from one play to the next is going to be entirely dependent on the people that you play with. Yes. And I will say that this game does play 2 players surprisingly well. You would think it would. 2 players, 3 players, 4 players. I think it plays all player counts very well. Very well. 4 is probably your best bet, but 2 is still pretty solid.
We played 3 many times too, and that works really well as well.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't many games like that where we actually agree that like 2, 3, 4 players are great. A lot of games were like, oh, it's amazing for 2 players, but 3 players, too many people. Yeah. And it doesn't add that much to the time that the game plays either.
So does Tzolkin The Mayan Calendar get the Tabletop Turtle test of time every Tuesdays and Thursdays?
That's a lot of T's in that.
That's a lot of T's.
That's a lot of T's.
We do alliteration. That's what we do here.
If you couldn't tell from Tabletop Turtle.
Yeah. Alliteration.
I absolutely would recommend it.
Okay.
11-year-old game, absolutely recommend it today.
Yeah. It's lost a bit of shine, I will say. Initially, I gave it a 9, like 10 years ago. I would say now I would give it a 7. I would close out on a 7. It's not a game in which I am excited to play.
Oh.
That sounds like a slight, but I never invite people over and be like, hell yeah, I want to play some Tzolkin. Let's do this. Let's spend some gear.
He's one of those people that likes to shiny new things too.
That too, yeah. I'm a slave to the cult of the new, I suppose. But no, it's not something I'm terribly excited to play. But it is always something that I'm down to play, maybe once or twice a year. I do like to bust it out. And I do like to show it to new players. Whenever I have people who aren't too familiar with board games, I would never go so far as to call this game a gateway game, but it's at a weight of complexity in which I think it's easy to teach. And just because of the tactile nature of the gears, I think new players have a lot of fun with this. It's not something they see in board games typically. There's no gears in Monopoly.
I actually have similar but slightly differing opinions. I would give this game, I don't remember what I gave it when I first played it, probably like an 8 or 9. And I would keep it at about 8 right now. So yeah. And again, this game, I haven't been playing it for 10 years. I've been playing it for maybe like 2-3 years. So not that long. But for me, even knowing that it's an older game, there's so much charm to it. And I think
there is.
And I think for beginners, actually, I think this is the perfect beginner board game player that you want to introduce strategy to.
Yeah. But be careful, because this is a game where if you ever played on Board Game Arena, if you're not familiar with the game, you will get walloped. You will get walloped by somebody who knows this game. Because there is perfect planning in this game. There's perfect planning.
If you're playing with a beginner though, and you shouldn't play trying to destroy them, I think that's a you problem. Like you need to fix your personality first before you play with them. If you play with a beginner, you're
trial by fire.
This is why we have no friends.
Learn or die.
This is why we only have board game seat fillers, because
all friends are board game seat fillers. That's going to be our motto.
And then the ones that are new to board games, they don't want to come back because
crush them. We recommend this game. It stands the test of time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still in our collection.
That's
right.
True. Yeah, I'm not gonna get rid of it. Yeah. Just because my gear is painted.
It does really add like a whole new level of so nice to look at. Mm-hmm. You should whip it out more often just to show people like, oh, look at my artwork.
I'm going to paint 3 more gears and I'm going to put them on my tires like hubcaps. And I'm going to roll around town. And people are going to be like, that dude's pimp.
That's about it. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And let us know below if you own any board games that are over 10 years old. Or if you own Tzolkin. And I'm still amazed by the fact that it came out in 2012. It's just, they did such a great job. Like, it's just perfect timing. But also, if the world was going to end and you're releasing a game, aren't you concerned no one's going to buy it?
Well, I don't think the Mayans made this game. Or maybe they did. Time travel. Anything's possible.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye. Tzolkin.